It was so windy last night, and we went out to dinner and we came home to our we have one of those tower little heater things in the backyard,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
with a propane tank on the bottom. And there's a glass tube that runs up the middle of it that the fire is visible in. The wind knocked that over.
Did it
Absolutely
break?
crushed. Oh God.
Oh,
Everywhere.
shatter.
Broken glass everywhere. Yeah. I also went to a psychic medium party on Friday.
Tell me about that.
Oh my God.
Wait.
So,
Before you tell me about that, that story's good enough for the pod, I bet. So
oh
we need to do our
yeah.
intro. So I'm gonna leave that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave your other story in too, because it goes along with the theme we came up with just now. But all right, so if this is your first time listening, welcome. We appreciate you being here. This is episode 40. So if it happens to be your first episode, it's also episode 40 for us. So that feels like kind of a milestone. Yes, but this is Tannah and I's podcast called Enneagram Adventure, where we talk about all things in life and whatever through the lens of the Enneagram. Sometimes we get a little off the Enneagram and we talk more about life, but either way, that's what we're here for. Hopefully you enjoy it, learn something from it. We love to hear from you, interact with you, all that stuff. So, you know, like, follow, comment, all the things. Anything you want to add about the pod, Tannah, before you
I
jump into your
mean,
story?
no. You're coming back from a trip and you just hit the nail on the head and you're jet lagged. Very proud of you. Very impressed. It's impressive.
We'll get to those stories too.
Yeah. Yeah. So the story that I was gonna start with is that I went to a psychic medium party on Friday night at my sister's house. So interestingly enough, I have seen her before, but it was 100 years ago, pre-kids, pre-everything, right? She is very bubbly, kind of unassuming, right? Naturally, first of all, as I'm getting ready for this, my 8 husband is you know that none of this is real, right?
Okay.
Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, sure. So anyway, I first, and it's solo. So it's while it's a party, it's you go off on your own, and she does your thing. So a few interesting things came up. She didn't remember me. I could tell she didn't remember me. She also didn't know anybody's name before. So there wasn't an invite list that she was on that was oh, Tana Flora is going to be there. Let me look her up quick, right?
Right, let me go scope all her socials. Yeah.
Yeah. So a few different things came up. First, she said you could bring an item that either belonged to the person or has some sort of sentimental value for someone that you may want to hear from or whatever. And so I brought a coffee mug of my great grandmother's. And so I give her this mug and she's sitting there with her eyes closed and I'm so uncomfortable, right? Even though I've done this before, I'm this is so awkward. And so she starts right away. Some of it is pretty unassuming. Oh, did this belong to 2 people? Asking a few questions, whatever. She brings up, she's who's Lucy? And that's my living grandmother. And she's oh, this grandparent is referencing her. And they were neighbors, which is weird.
Yes.
But then she brings up, she's I'm getting a younger male. And my cousin passed away at a very young age. And she just kept going. She's I'm getting a younger male. And he's telling me that he was pretty reckless. This was a situation he passed, he was doing something reckless and he was driving. And I'm yes, yep, all that checks out, which is weird. It's just really weird because I don't have a ton of people, luckily, that have passed away. And so it's not I was really oh, I want to hear from this specific person. But what was really weird was when I saw her 100 years ago, she's like, "Are you a runner?" And I'm like, at the time, no, I wasn't. And she's like, "Okay, well, if you're not, you're gonna be." And when you get to that point in your run where it starts to feel easy, he's running with you. So that's what she told me 100 years ago, right? She tells me, she's like, "Are you a runner?" And I'm like, well, it's funny, like, now I wouldn't call myself a runner, but have I been running? Yes. She so then she repeats what she told me however long ago. And she's like, I can hear, like, he's like the breathing, like he's breathing as if he's like running, but he's like consistent and like it feels good. Like, okay, that's kind of weird. So she also brought up, so she pulled my cards and all very bright cards. So she's like, the brighter the card, the brighter the energy versus dark cards. And she's like, you like what you do for a living, but you are doing something creative right now. And I'm like, I don't know if sure. And she's like, you want to like really throw yourself into that. And like, she was just kind of like talking about what I would presume to be the podcast.
Yeah.
And she's like, you should do it. Like, just throw yourself into it. Like, start getting more, involved with it and do new things with it. She's like, because I see that this is really positive. And she's like, so also the other person that you do this with, really good friend of yours, I can see that. She also like really wants to like see what else could come of this.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was really weird. Like, I don't know for sure, like, if this is just like she's a really solid interviewer and is reading your body language and all those things. But then at the end, I told her about the podcast. She's like, oh my God, I would love to come on. I can read auras for you guys. And like, if you tie that back to Enneagram, she was like very loosely familiar with it.
I mean, I would, sure.
Yeah, she was very fun. She
Yeah,
was very
it's
fun.
funny. It's not what we're going to talk about today, but a little bit of that goes along with like I've been spending a little bit more time in like the astrology space and trying to like understand like some of that a little bit differently. And a lot of people, one of the common questions I get is like, is there a correlation between my sign and my Enneagram
Mm-hmm.
type?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been thinking a lot about that and how do we do some stuff like around how some of that might work. It's a little bit tied to that, right? Like it's kind of in that
Sure.
realm of
Yeah.
things. But yeah, that's super interesting. I would say she's not wrong. She's not wrong. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was interesting. So my mom was there too, and she read my mom. My mom recently had a friend pass who she used to go to like NASCAR races with, and she was reading my mom and she's like, I don't know who this is, but like they're showing me like NASCAR races. And then the weirdest thing that she told my mom's been thinking about going to Ireland when the Badgers play football over there. I think
Sure.
it's in 2027. I don't remember. But anyway, she's been like planning this trip and she was bringing up like, okay, there's this female that's with you whenever you travel. And she stopped right away and she was like, are you going to Ireland? And my mom's like, well, I like have been thinking about it. And she's like, this person is saying like, go do it. It's just like very specific, you know?
Yeah. I think, you know, there sometimes I'm skeptical. I think there are people who like are plugged into like a different
Mm-hmm.
energy field. I don't want to, people believe crazier things. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think for everything where there is someone who is plugged into that or whatever, there can be people who are like scammy about it and
For
you know what I
sure.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. But it was
Yeah.
fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Something different. So yeah, you though. aside from the psychic medium party, that was very fun. You were just in Spain.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
we just
How
got
was the
back from
trip?
Spain.
There is an ang with part of this
Yeah,
story.
yeah, there's an Enneagram angle we're gonna go with on this, so just stay with us on this journey. And it's the reason that I left Tannah's opening story about her glass heater thing shattering in her
My
backyard.
God.
But yeah, so we just got back from Spain and I'm still feeling the jet lag. It's like a weird coming home, I will say, is easier than going there in terms of the jet lag, just like the way the change works, but I'm still like they're 7 hours ahead there. So I'm like exhausted at like 6:30 p.m. Yeah, so having a little trouble like getting back fully on this time zone. But trip overall, super fun. It was beautiful. We were in Marbella, which is in southern Spain on the Mediterranean. Literally, like, look across the water and you can see the continent of Africa, like on the other side of the water. So
So
that was
crazy.
crazy too, to be like, oh yeah, it's like right there. It's like right there. That mountain in the distance is Africa. So that's crazy. Beautiful, really nice weather, kind of nice to miss a week of Wisconsin grossness to be somewhere where it's like sunny, not tropical at all. It was still pretty arid, so not humid, but super fun. Lots of people spoke English, so it was easy to get around. Almost everyone spoke English. Seems to be a city that's full of transplants. Like we were there, and one of the things we often do when we go on vacation is we get tattoos. So we got tattoos while we were there, but when we went into this little shop or whatever, the tattoo artist was French. Him and his wife like moved to Marbella. So like it's a place that's a little bit of a melting pot too in terms of Europe. But yeah, we were there to race. Aaron was racing, I was spectating, and we were there with some other friends who were racing, spectating the race for the world championship. So the story I'm gonna tell here, and Tana's gonna unpack this about like what she thinks like I was doing in my number when this happened. But we arrived there on Wednesday. We left Chicago O'Hare Tuesday afternoon. We arrived in Spain. We flew a red eye. We arrived in Spain on Wednesday afternoon. So it was like it was more than 24 hours, but it was as if it was 24 hours. I can't do the actual travel math on that. It's too hard. But we planned this crazy long layover in Paris on purpose for this flight because we wanted to make sure that Aaron's bike made it to Spain. And I was thinking like anytime you have a really tight connection, sometimes you lose your luggage just by nature of like for it to get there to the other plane, right? It might not. So let's have a longer connection and then there'll be no issue with his bike getting on this flight.
Mhm.
So we sit in Paris. Literally, it was a 6 hour layover, like ridiculous layover. We get to
It's the
Spain.
Paris airport.
It is crazy. I I don't know exactly where it ranks in terms of like largest airports in the world. It's not considered like I know Atlanta's considered the busiest and like we looked it up while we were there because we were like, what the heck? This place is enormous. And technically, the Denver airport is the largest by geographic area of any airport in the world. Didn't know that till this trip. Random five fact for you to carry around now. But just being there, like we landed in one terminal and we had to go through customs because that was our port of entry into the EU. So we had to go through customs and a full security check in one terminal to get in the other terminal that we needed to go to. Once we were in the second terminal, we had to get on a bus to go to another terminal where there are like little puddle jumper planes apparently that like drop people all over Europe. But it was like a whole thing. Like we had to take a train like from one terminal to the next one, and then we took a bus from that terminal to like the little terminal to get on this little plane. And so the airport itself feels enormous. I don't know how it really ranks. I don't know. It was fine. On the way back, we were in like the main terminal, which is like a whole luxury shopping mall. in the main terminal. But
Fancy.
anyway, yeah, it's very fancy. But so we sit in that airport in not the fancy terminal, in like a little terminal for 6 hours waiting for our flight. We get on the flight, we land in Spain. Guess what didn't make it? Aaron's bike. Yep, of course. Despite all
of your
best laid
best
plans. Yeah, like, bike's not there. Like, okay, great. So we immediately like file a claim. Like, we need, like, when is it gonna come? I of course put an air tag in it because for this whole thing to go race triathlon, like, the bike is the most important thing. Like, everything else we could buy there if it was lost, except for the bike. So of course it's air tagged, and we are like refreshing, watching it, watching it, watching it. The next day, we see that it has moved, and it lands in Malaga, which is where the airport is in Spain. And so we call the airline. We flew Air France. We call them and we're like, hey, I know we called and made a claim yesterday about this luggage, but we can see it's landed in Malaga. We just want to go pick it up. And they were like, okay, great. You can just go pick it up. And they don't tell us anything else. There's nothing else, whatever. So we get to the Malaga airport. And it's about a 45-minute drive from Marbella to Malaga. So we drive down there, we go inside, and I think, silly me, like, who lives in Madison, Wisconsin, where the baggage claim is like walk through the main doors and it's right there. I think this is going to be no problem. We're going to walk in. I'm going to be like, we need to pick up this bag. Here's the claim ticket. Here's the proof that it's here because I have the air tag. And we're just going to like get back in the car and like we're going to go hang out and like do Spain things the rest of the afternoon. That was not what happened. Like, not even close. We realize like that there's no way to get to baggage claim after we're like in the airport, after you've left. And we then like, we're like, well, I think if you go through there, but we just keep running into like roadblocks, like a security person like everywhere that like won't let you back to the baggage claim area.
Yeah.
And so finally we get in this line and we're standing in this line and somebody's like, well, how long do you think this line is going to take? Because it wasn't overwhelmingly long in terms of number of people. There were maybe 15, 20 people in front of us, which doesn't seem like that many. But they're like, oh, this line is going to take like 3 hours.
My God.
And so I'm like, okay, all right, well, there has to be another option. And so we're standing there with this guy from Florida who's trying to get his friend's bike. His friend is back in Marbella with her feet up because she's like trying to get ready for this race and he's trying to be helpful and get her bike. So we're standing with him and we start talking about, well, what are all the ways that we think we could get through security? And somebody says, well, if you have a rental car for the same day, you can go through security to get to the rental car area. So he rents a car for literally $15 for one day that he has no intention of picking up. And we go to like, I pretend that I'm with him. So Aaron stays in line to hold the spot in case the line moves. We go to like this door and we're like, okay, we need to get a rental car. And like the guy won't let us through. He's like, no, no, you don't have, like, did you fly in today? And we're like, no, we just need to pick up the car. He's like, no, you can't. No, like, won't let us through because we didn't fly in same day. And so we go back and we get in line and I'm like, okay, well, what if we try to go to the rental car area like backwards from like how we rented the car the night before? What if we try to go like backwards through the airport and then maybe we can come up in baggage claim over there?
Right.
So
Yep.
like we walk through the whole airport. The airport's big enough. It's like a 25-minute walk across the airport to the rental cars area. So we walk over there. We walk all the way through. We get again, and again, there's like a security guy there. And he's like, why are you here? And of course, of all the people in Spain who don't speak a lot of English, it's these security guards. And so we're trying to explain and he like won't let us through. So we go all the way back. In the meantime, Aaron has moved. We were counting the tiles on the floor. He had moved one tile. Like, that's
My
how we knew
God.
how much the line had moved. He moved one tile. There are these, and he's like chatting it up with these two women who are from some Scandinavian country that were also in line trying to get their bike back, right? So chatting it up. And he then says to me, well, my friend bought a cheap ticket and went through security and was able to get her bike that way. And I'm like, okay, well, I really don't want to have to buy a plane ticket to get our bike. That just seems so stupid. Like,
Mhm.
why can we not just like go? It was just ridiculous. In the meantime, there's one poor woman who's like working this desk where all these people are waiting in line. So by the time you get to the window, what she's doing is she's like checking the claim. Then she has to like go back into the baggage area and check every single number ticket one by one and then bring that bag back to the desk to like so it's taking forever, right? Like why wouldn't you just it would be way easier for you just to escort like 3 or 4 of us back there at a time to just get our own stuff, but that's not how it's working. So we wait
This
in
is
line a
all
little bit.
very five still, and I would have been
Yes.
so angry by this point. Like,
Well, we'll get to like my realization of like after this is all over. So finally, like after we'd been back in the line for probably a half an hour, I'm like, okay, let's just try to find a really cheap ticket. So I start looking for tickets and I found a ticket to London that was like 75 euro. And I got all ready to book it, but then the line kind of moved like several people at once. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to wait. Like the line's moving and didn't buy that ticket. You have to buy tickets, by the way, if they're same day tickets, you have to purchase them within a certain amount of time or like you can't like it's like not enough time or whatever and then you
sure.
can't purchase them
Yeah.
anymore. So I like ended up waiting too long and this ticket to London expires. So I'm like on like Google cheap flights, like trying to find another cheap flight. I find this flight to Madrid. And again, it's like 75 euro or something, which is like 90 bucks because of course the exchange rate is currently not in our favor. And I buy this ticket to Madrid and I'm like, okay, well, here goes nothing. The guy from Florida also buys a ticket to Madrid. And so we're like, well, let's see what happens. Like I have my passport, I have this ticket. Like we get up and the security line is really long. I'm like, okay, well, we could be in the security line for another half an hour before we know if this is even going to work. And we walk through, like, scan the little thing. We walk through, and they like opened a line, like right in front of me. And I was like, oh, perfect. So we like jump in this very short line. There's like 3 people in front of us. We're going through the line and we have nothing, but I like take off everything. Like I don't want there to be anything that delays us. So like I take off all my jewelry, I take off my watch, I take off my shoes, and you don't have to take your shoes off anymore, by the way, like whatever. But I do all the things. So I was like, I just don't want there to be anything that keeps us from getting to the other side of this line. We go through the line, we walk down into the baggage claim area. I walk into the space that was like for international flights. Aaron's bike is sitting right there. I like walk right up to it. I call him and I'm like, I'm here. I found your bike. Is there anyone around you who can describe what their bike bag looks at? I have 2 hands. I can drag a second bike out with me. And so he like yells to the crowd of people that are waiting in line, like, anybody want to talk about what's your bike box look like? And this couple like describes one. So and that bike box is like literally right next to Aaron's. Like it was like very
Crazy.
serendipitous that it's like the same whatever.
Yeah.
So I grab both bikes. I start walking out. No one stops me. No one questions me. Nobody, nothing. Nothing. I get through the door, like out of the baggage area, and this Spanish man like runs out after me. He's like, wait, wait, wait. And I'm like, oh shit, they're not going to let me take her bike because I don't have the
The air
claim ticket. I
tagger.
have
Yeah.
Aaron's, but I don't have hers. And so I'm like getting ready to call Aaron so that he can put them on the phone to tell them that I have permission to take this bag. And he's like, no, no, no. I just want to look at the number like on the tag. And I was like, okay. He's like, I'm just going to write it down. He writes down the number and he's like, it's just so we can close the claim.
Oh,
So he didn't
Jesus.
care. Like, I could have taken anything out of there and he would have just like, and closed the claim, like, no questions asked.
Oh
I was
my
like, I don't
God.
understand why security is so tight to get back here if you're literally going to let me walk out with anything.
Right.
What? Makes no sense. So I walk out. We give the bike to the like this other couple, because it was a woman who was racing, and like we leave and go on. This whole thing, like start to finish, is like 5 hours though. So at this point, it's dark. We've spent the whole afternoon in the Malaga airport, like trying to solve all these problems. And for me, like, I did not get frustrated or upset or anything, because it was sort of like, there's nothing for me to do except for solve this problem right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. Getting mad won't make this line go any faster. Like, getting
Yep.
mad won't like change the situation that we're in. So it was more just like, okay, well, let's try this. Oh, that didn't work for a solution. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Right? So it was just like one like problem after another until we solved it. And unfortunately, it cost $90 and a whole afternoon to like get to that. Now, I posted, anybody who follows me personally on Instagram, I posted about this, like, that no, I did not in fact go to Madrid. I was just trying to get a bike out of security. But in the amount of work I've done the last 2 years, my realization was like, all of that was just like, oh, I'm just going to take the next step until we find a solution. And it never got emotional or never got like worked up about things, versus like the people who are hysterical in this line, like trying to get their shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like you just mentioned, right? This is like very 5 and logical. I think there was a little bit of like 8 that came through in it too, of just like, we're just gonna keep going.
We're going to take control of the situation and we're just going to keep. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the point of that very long story of like getting Aaron's bike back is like, how do we deal with things when they come up unexpectedly in our type? And in that case, I think I probably stayed in like the healthy part of 5 or the high side of 8, versus going into my stress number, which could look like, F this, we'll just figure it out later, and like maybe try to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the story at the beginning I told with that thing falling over, right?
Yeah.
So we went to dinner, like date night. So my mom was babysitting my kids. That thing was a gift. It was a Christmas gift from her and my stepdad. And my initial reaction was like, oh my God, like she's probably so mad right now. And like I I was like, well, maybe we can look at the website and find a new top and a new glass tube for the middle, and like just trying to, like, it's fine, don't be mad at me.
Yeah.
Like, the reality of the situation is I can't control the wind, and like
Right.
things happen. It's fine.
Right.
Oh my God, my husband is cleaning it up presently right now. He texted me while he's out there and he's like, yeah, this thing is fucked. We're not getting new parts. I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Well,
Oh
it's
my
interesting in
goodness.
that, for like unexpected for you, right? That your response still was like a very to response of like, oh God, they're gonna be mad at me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was probably expensive. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fair to like feel all those things, even though it's 100% out of your control, because the wind here is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was crazy last night. Crazy. But it's funny, like my husband, 8 husband, is like, yeah, I mean, fuck, whatever. And
Moving on.
moving on. We're gonna clean this up. We're gonna keep it moving. Yesterday, you should have seen him like flying around the house, like controlling everything within his absolute power. He is an avid outdoorsman. I don't know if I've talked about that on here, but it is deer season where we live, and he hasn't seen like anything. And mind you, like he's been hunting since he's been like very young. And I'm like, isn't that the point? Like, isn't the point like you don't, it's not like every time you go, like the thing that you want to happen is going to happen.
Right.
I feel like they would call it something else besides hunting then. Just like gathering, shooting, I don't know. But like the point is you're gonna go sit out there and you're gonna like that's the fun of the sport, right? And like every year, if it's like this, he just like throws an absolute tantrum. So he's flying around the house yesterday, like doing things that are all within his control because that's the thing he can't control, and that's what he's angry about.
Right. That's interesting. He needs to come over here because
Oh my God,
there's some freaking deer over here. In fact, people are hitting them with cars and like
I
leaving them in my
know.
yard. Yeah.
My brother-in-law hit one on Friday, totaled his car. He's fine, luckily. But I did also text a picture of it to my husband and say, just so you know, who brother-in-law does not hunt, got one before you did. He didn't appreciate that. He
I would
didn't.
guess not.
Him, unexpected for him is like, I'm gonna blow right by this and control every little thing that I can. If that's out of my control, I'm gonna find something that's within my control and I'm gonna control the shit out of it.
Yeah. That feels like very, yeah. We've told multiple 8 stories that are kind of like that, right? Where it's like, this is
Mm-hmm.
like the story about COVID, right? Where somebody kept their house, an 8 that we know kept her house immaculate. Well, it was like, that's what she could control in the midst of COVID. I think about a little bit, I'm trying to think through like if I have any stories, like, because I think every number is a little different. So, like, Aaron, when something unexpected happens, I think it's like one of two things. It's either very like everything's going to be fine, we're all going to be fine, like very 9, kind of just like put a positive spin on it and it'll all work out, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Or it's like he will go full 6 mode into his like stress number, and then it's anxiety and it's lists and it's, you know, planning and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of, I think it maybe depends on exactly what the
Yeah.
situation is.
Yeah.
Generally, though, he defaults to that like more, it'll all be fine. Like, we don't need to like worry about this at all kind of mode.
Mm-hmm. I saw it most with, so obviously with children, you get to control a certain amount, but like in the process of me having babies, like, so my first was an emergency C-section that was very unexpected. My husband was like, he tells the story about how the anesthesiologist, like, they were prepping me and everything, and then he's in the hallway, like, waiting in, like, the full, like, get up with the scrubs and the hair hat and, like, all the things. And he's, like, sitting there with his hand, like, his head in his hands, and the anesthesiologist goes, like, "Hey, Dad, you doing okay?" And he's like, "I don't I don't know." And he's like, "We do this a lot, like, multiple times a day. It's gonna be fine." It's, like, but it was completely out of his control, and it felt very, like, scary, I think, for him
Yeah.
because he couldn't control anything. But then the other thing that's wild is because he couldn't control everything, he needed to see, like, everything. So I'm having a C-section, like, my intestines are on the table next to me, and he peeks around. He looks, because he's like, "I gotta know." Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But then what's funny, so I'm a Thinks Like a Six, as a reminder, and I had the option with my second to have a VBAC, so like a traditional birth, because he was in the right position, and they made sure that he was in the right position. And I was like, I can't handle the unpredictability of labor ever again. It's like, you mean that I can schedule when I'm gonna go do this? Yeah, that. Let's go do that. So the second time it was like a sunny day, tootled my way in the morning and easy peasy. Like, if you're gonna give me the option to schedule it, what? Avoid uncertainty? Thank you.
I was just going back through like clips of our last podcast before I left where we talked about building capacity for uncertainty. So, Tannah, maybe you go back and listen to our own podcast.
I need to do that. I need to do more of that. But if you think about a 6, like, so much of their brain power is spent on thinking about what could happen, that the uncertainty for them is like they're working so hard to avoid it, that when it does happen, at least for me and a thinks like even, is very overwhelming, sometimes paralyzing. They actually teach
Yeah.
this to children now, by the way, in social emotional learning. They learn it in 4K. So now so Keegan, like, has this, like, regular verbiage that they use when something is a surprise, or if somebody, like, acts a certain way, they teach them to think like, "Oh, that was unexpected." So, like, if a
Yeah.
friend has, like, a big feeling or whatever, so he'll say, "Yeah, that was very unexpected."
Yes. We could all get better at that in terms of the acceptance of it.
Yeah.
I think I think for sixes too, right? It's the planning and everything is like that's one thing, but it's like when the planning didn't actually do anything for you, right? Like so if you like planned the whole thing out and then something happened and it didn't work out that way. Or let's
Yeah.
say in the case like where you're talking about thinking like a six based on labor, like imagine that you had scheduled the day and you're like, this is the day, and then something emergent had happened and you had to go early, or something happened to the doctor and you couldn't do that day or whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I think some of that's in the like, I don't forget how that saying goes about best laid plans, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Is there a number I think about 7s. If pain is unexpected, if they get unexpected pain, though.
when I think about sevens, that I know sometimes like what I've witnessed again, it sort of feels like the nine, like it's they kind of go one of two ways. They can either go into the immediately like getting spontaneous and avoidant, like this is really uncomfortable. I don't like how this feels, so I'm going to do whatever I can to get out of this feeling as fast as possible. Whatever that might look like, if that looks like, doing something fun right away and just like replacing the bad feeling or the unexpected feeling with this thing that's fun and sort of a reframing of it. Or I've seen some sevens when they're kind of presented with something unexpected get really sharp and really kind of sarcastic and biting, and maybe more in their stress number, where it's like, I don't like how this feels. And so I'm going to just get really, you know, maybe not as nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that before, especially if a 7 feels like it's personal.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
seen that before. What about 4s?
I think that's a good one. Shout out to Hector again for how things show up for him when it's unexpected. I think fours, because they don't dislike like the darker emotions, sometimes I think it gives them an opportunity to like kind of sit in that a little bit. But and I feel like sixes could have this a little bit too, where it's almost like even when something's unexpected, they'll tell you that like it wasn't, right? Like, oh well, I I
I
knew
thought this might
such and
happen.
such. I
Yeah.
thought this might happen. I thought it might feel this way, or
Yeah.
so I could see that a little bit. But I think also for fours, it could also look like, depending on exactly what it was that was unexpected, I could imagine them using the unexpected feeling to test people around them, right? Like, is this person gonna stick around,
Sure.
right, through this unexpected thing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
And in their stress number, they go to two, right? And so they're also, you can imagine maybe it's like
Yeah.
the opposite of testing it could be like overly fawning, right? Like becoming a people pleaser and like extremely worried about
Mhm.
people leaving them or situations or,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. It could I bring it up because how do I like there's a tie with it's a little 6 energy. and I don't know if I'm going to articulate it very well, but if it's unexpected, there is a chance that I've thought of it, or that, like, if it's triggering a stress number, a lot of the time it either comes from a frustration point of like, oh, I thought this would happen, and either I didn't prepare the way that I should have, or it's some sort of like some kind of mirror thing where it becomes like I didn't do something that I should have, and like there's some shame that can be tied to it because it's like a feeling of desperation. I don't think I'm articulating it very well, but if you can't control it, it feels desperate at times for me.
Think it has. Like I can resonate with that. I think there are times where it's like you desperately want the thing to work out or you desperately wanted it to go differently than it did. You can get caught up kind of in that feeling.
But it shows up for me like an oversimplification of the solution then.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Like trying to make
Like,
it black and white or whatever.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, how many times in stress have I come to you and been like, well, if we just, like, if people would just
Right.
think this way or behave this way, then that would
And I'm
solve
like,
the problem.
yeah, well, good luck with that.
And you're like, that's not what we're working with right now.
We're still talking about people. Yeah, I think the oversimplification, I think that too, what you just brought up, and I know you're an X like a one, some of it sounds a little bit like of that too, because we haven't talked about ones yet. And when I think about ones, something unexpected happens, they can get into the, well, let's just make it real black and white, right? Let's just create a policy for that or make a rule for that or whatever, right? Like that kind of energy can come from, well, that was unexpected and I don't want that to ever be unexpected again. So I'm going to like set up this series of like rules or checkpoints or
Mhm.
lists or so that that thing that was unexpected can't ever happen again.
It's interesting you say that because as you were talking, what happens is as I do an oversimplification of the solution, but then when it comes to the tactic, I don't trust that the tactic is actually going to prevent that thing from ever happening again.
Then you like go back to your six.
Hmm. Like, sure, I can write a list or I can make, I can apply this rule, but that's not good enough because it happened this one time. So what prevents it from happening again?
Nothing. Nothing
Nothing.
prevents it from happening again.
It's chaos.
But I think that's interesting too from the standpoint of like that's what, when you think about what every number does in unexpected situations, and there is a range, right? There's the range of like healthy to unhealthy, like where does
Hmm.
the emotional response come in? Where do you become dysregulated, where you're triggered and it's like way going south? Like there's like a whole like variety of ways that you could show up in these situations, but I think every number is essentially trying to like
Yeah.
figure out how to mitigate these risks, which again goes back to this like the greater your capacity is for uncertainty, like the more like free and all the things that you're going to feel because to
Hmm.
what you just said, there is nothing that guarantees anything. And not to become like totally like morbid, but like, you know, could get in a car accident on the way to work tomorrow morning and like, right? Like there's no, and you could be the safest driver, never speed, wear your seatbelt, all the things. It doesn't
Yep.
mean like that won't happen. So like how like when you think about it, like how in the world are any of us like walking around like living like not all in bubbles or like whatever.
Well, let's talk a little bit about threes in all of
Yeah.
this too, because something unexpected is likely going to be not as efficient as a three would like it to be. What I've seen in the threes in my life are they're like, they might have a feeling about it, but they don't call it a feeling. Like they could get frustrated or they get some type of way. And then immediately they're in solve mode of like,
Yeah.
here's the things.
Yeah.
Here's the things we can do to fix that. Here you go. And like they can't
Right.
get through it fast enough.
Right.
So I've actually been confused before with some threes in my life where I'm like, are you agitated because this was unexpected, or are you agitated because you have to come up with the solution, or what? Like, what's the feeling coming from here? But then when you ask them that, they're like, well, it's not a feeling. It's just like, I can't believe we're here talking about the same thing.
And you're having a feeling about it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think for threes, when I think about the threes in my life, when unexpected things have happened, they do jump very quickly to solution. Sometimes I think the jumping to solution is because the feeling is inefficient. I'm going to jump to this solution so that I don't have to feel the feeling. If I just immediately go to solution mode, then I don't have to, I'll just bury that feeling. But then what happens is at some point something unexpected is going to happen, and that feeling is going to come out like as frustration or as anger or as some other feeling that maybe you don't intend for it to come out as.
Threes have apologized to me before after that, because like I was within the vicinity of the reaction, which is helpful because naturally the first thing I think of is, ooh, like what did I do?
Nothing. You probably did nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. I think this particular area is something that I need a lot of continued development in, because all
I
of
got a
my
guy for that.
numbers, oh my God, like all of my numbers that are tied to me are like not great with the unexpected.
Yeah. We haven't talked about this in a long time in terms of stances, but you and I are the same but very different in that all three in your tri-type are the compliant numbers, and all three in my tri-type are the withdrawing numbers, and how that plays into that as well. That's a little bit the compliant numbers being all three for you. I think sometimes I hear it in your that like, well, what are they going to think of me? Did I do something wrong? Right? It's that sort of worry.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas me, it's like I'm just going to go crawl in a hole. How about that? We could do a whole thing about withdrawing numbers even too from this trip to Spain, where like there was an incident where I was like, I'm just going to completely remove myself from this entire situation. And I caught
Hmm.
myself like in the middle of that, of being like, oh, you're doing that thing again. Where rather than like just dealing with it, you're just going to withdraw and like try to like fix it by yourself. And that, in fact, is not the answer in this situation. So,
Totally. A five that I know calls it compartmentalization. So she will compartmentalize if there's something difficult. So much so, I had a conversation with her this week, and something I shared with her was very unexpected, like to a
mhm.
certain degree. And so, like, she had a little bit of a feeling, and then she was like, okay, I'm compartmentalizing. And she's like, also, I'm really sorry that you had to deal with this. And I'm like, you're making me feel worse.
Stop. Yeah. Yeah.
But she's very self aware about that.
I think the compartmentalization can be a really helpful thing. I know the line of work that this five does, and compartmentalization can be like a very helpful thing in this line of work. But also, what I would say is in the long run of your life, that is a thing that fives should work on, because compartmentalization, it is leaving a whole bunch of unresolved feelings and emotions and things like that. And that's like part of that logicking them away and not feeling them. And so
Hmm.
there is opportunity to like, okay, when are you going to sit down and unpack all the things that you've tucked into the various compartments in your mind or in your body? And that shit
Yep.
sucks.
Ugh, that's hard.
Yeah,
We got a guy for that, though.
we got a guy for that. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad Aaron got his bike. Let's go back
Yes,
to
he got his
that to
bike.
tie a ribbon on
Yeah.
this. I'm glad he got his bike. I'm glad that you stayed very five throughout that journey. And I'm glad we talked about this because I am due for a little journaling on the unexpected,
We should write a book. That's what we should do next, Tannah. You want to write a book?
right?
You got time for that?
Yeah, why not? The medium told me I have to do creative things.
Creative things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll have to on one of these upcoming episodes, we'll have to unpack a bunch of things. Maybe we talk more about the like tie into astrology. We can talk a little bit too about I have been as a true 5 would, I've been falling down the Neil deGrasse Tyson rabbit hole recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anybody listening does not know who that is, he's a physicist, right, who like proves all sorts of things through physics, which is just fascinating to me in so many different ways. So we could also like talk about some of that.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's a whole topic for another day. We'll just like
Look at
add it to
us.
the list.
We just decided content early.
Early. Now like we're gonna need the listeners to hold us to actually doing that.
Really
So
proud
that
of
next week
that.
when we record, I'm like, oh, what are we gonna talk about?
Really
Maybe what
proud of
I'll
that.
do, maybe what I'll do this week is on the Instagram. I'll have to see if I can figure out how to put it on TikTok, but maybe on the Instagram I can pull out, some of those little polls and things like that, and we can try to see if
Oh,
people
yeah.
will weigh in of like what their type is, what their astrological sign is. Do they know their sun or do they know their moon and rising, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To see if we can talk about that for an hour. But we're going to need some help. I don't think I can just riff on that. I mean, I could try, but it would be nice to have
Yeah,
examples.
I'll need some examples. Awesome.
So,
Cool. Well, if you stuck it out with us, thank you. And more fun content coming, obviously. You just heard it. So
yeah, we're going to work on that.
share, like, comment, message, all the things.
Yes. Yeah. Leave us a
Awesome.
review. All of it. Okay, cool.
Thank
I'll talk to you
you.
later, Tannah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.